What's going on, guys? Steve Smacks Garage back at it with another video. Today we will be installing a CS Racing exhaust onto my 2018 BMW S1000R. It's your exhaust cover where the exhaust is going to come out. Make sure you don't burn yourself. Put that off to the side. Make sure that doesn't get damaged. And then we have the goodies. I'll open these real quick and then I'll show you guys what we got. Here's your muffler. It's gonna sit right here. Underneath here. Very nice quality stuff. Here's your two connecting pipes. O2 sensor bungs. There's two T45 screws that are going to hold in the rear section of this exhaust, this big clunky rear section that we are going to get rid of. T45 Torx. We're going to get this loosened up and then we're going to take the rear section of the exhaust off. Just to show you an up-close view, there's two clamps, one on each side. Just loosen these up with the T45 and then slide the exhaust right off. Kropovich. We are going to remove the servo motor and take the cables out of it, because obviously this new exhaust isn't going to have a servo, but as you can see right here, there's a T20 bolt holding the cover. Once you get the cover off, you have to loosen two nuts, and then you can push those cables up. There is also a T25 right here that holds the servo motor and the electronics in. We are going to keep that connected so the bike doesn't realize any faults. So I'm going to take those lines from the servo. We're going to disconnect them, leave the servo actuator up in there so the bike doesn't recognize faults with this aftermarket exhaust on. There's a cover that's held on by a T25. Whoops, can't even see it. Cover goes on the servo. As you can see right here, there's two nuts that you have to loosen so we can get the servo actuator out. And then that servo actuator is right here. So we're gonna disconnect this and I'll be able to pull that out, get the electrical connection out, disconnect these cables. I'll put that box back in. Once you loosen these two bolts or nuts that go on here, they just loosen up and then you slide them out. Get these out of the servo. Now we're gonna move up here, disconnect this T25 bolt here. This is the servo motor. Got that taken out, removed both of the cables, which are gonna be these guys right here. Remove both these cables, taped off the connections, and reconnected it so I'm not gonna throw a. Now that that servo is reconnected, I need to get this big suitcase part out and then disconnect the front runners. So and disconnect the O2 sensors. So there's going to be an O2 sensor, whoops, right here and right next to it. So I'm gonna drop the exhaust down, and then there's little clips that the O2 sensor hangs in. I'm gonna take these out, and I'll end up getting the O2 sensor once I drop the exhaust down. Next, what we are gonna do is we're gonna gain access to the upper header bolts. So we're gonna take, for easier access, we're gonna take these panels off, T20. And there's gonna be a center portion and there's two sides. They're gonna be the same on both sides. There's a few bolts that we have to take off. Right here, and the one right here. And then there's a rubber grommet that pulls this out. So once you get those out, you can remove it. To gain access, we're gonna have to just disconnect the radiator and move it forward so we have more access to the header bolts to get those out. After I took the fairings off, we had to disconnect the radiator and the oil cooler. There's two T25 millimeter bolts that hold this up. And then there's a T30 that holds this bracket to the block of the motor. Take those out. You have these little clips that hold into the bottom of the radiator and the bottom of the oil cooler with that bracket that I just showed you. Take those out, and then there's the same up top for your radiator. Pull the radiator forward, and then you're also going to use an extension, a 3/8 with a 12.10 millimeter with a flex head on it to get access to the header bolts to take them out. And then you're gonna come between the oil cooler and the radiator with this and that extension, and it'll give you access to get those header bolts out. Here is the headers into the cat off. All you had to do, disconnect O2 sensor. There's two of them. One of them connects right here and it runs down. You have to snip two zip ties to get to it. The other side connects right into here, and you have two more clips, and then the O2 sensors run along the engine block. So just make sure you take those all out, and then be careful with your clearance of your oil cooler and coolant lines as you drop that muffler out. So now I took the O2 sensors out of the stock exhaust, lined it up with the new exhaust, tightened them back down, 17 millimeter wrench. Now I'm gonna install these two pipes onto the motorcycle. So after you do the reverse of what you did to take these off, put these bolts back on, tighten them up. Don't tighten them up too much. They're pretty gentle copper. Then you have to run your O2 sensors. This one runs up this side and is zip tied. And then you got to reconnect your radiator and oil cooler with that T30 bolt right here where my finger is. Connect these back up, push the washer and the clip back over to hold the radiator up. And then there's two T25 bolts right where my finger is on the bottom to connect those. Now, ready to install the muffler. So with the stock exhaust off, you have to take one of these and transfer it to your new exhaust. I took this one. It's just two T15, I believe, bolts, and then it comes with two nuts to screw them in on the aftermarket exhaust. So after we tidied up the front, we actually left the bolts loose up there, and we slid this exhaust and lined it up with this bolt, which you reuse the T45 bolt for that. Slid those in, 5 millimeter hex head to tighten the bottom of the exhaust. And then I believe it's a 4 millimeter to tighten these bolts. Make sure you use thread locker on these. Really clean, really loud. Now I just gotta put the fairings back on. it.